Chris Vanocur is here today in interviewing me instead of the opposite. So I guess I'm ready.
Oh, you're not ready. You have no idea.
That's what, terrifies me a little
Let's start with a real tough one.
bit. Okay.
How did you get into this business?
Well, I was scouted at 15. And I grew up in a very small town. We had a flashing light, so I didn't really have a lot of exposure to this type of business. This was new to me, but I was a very shy individual, introverted. This was something that I was really pulled back by. I'm like, I can't do that. And it took them several times to get me interested because part of my psychology was like, oh, I don't think you can do that. You're not very, you don't talk to people, you don't go up and approach people, you're not that extroverted. And when I looked at magazines, when I looked at people, I thought, okay, those people are perfect. Those people are this, this, and this. And so I really took myself out of that frame of mind. But as I started doing it, I remember one of my first jobs was, it was for Napa Parts calendars. And it wasn't what you think, but my dad used to have classic cars. And so the photographer was shooting his cars and he saw me and he said, "Are you shooting these photos?" And that was one of my first jobs. And I just thought this is really fun and I really enjoyed it. And it really kind of opened up me looking at, I can do these type of things. I'm not as scared or as shy as I think I am. So through high school, I got really involved in the arts. I was a dancer, singer, in drama. I really loved, creating. And that really gave me a lot of confidence. And then when I went to Utah State, I studied fashion and business, and I developed a fondness towards the industry as a whole. Because I was so inspired by film and commercial film. And I loved looking at things and saying, wow, this is pretty amazing. I just love that, And so part of me was so captured in the magical side of it that I just, I kept pursuing it. And as I was going through school, I made enough money. I didn't have a student loan. I paid for my schooling with everything that I had earned, plus I had a part-time job. And I think that it was probably one of the most valuable experiences of me learning how to grow and to own who I was. Because when we think of modeling, we think of the outside, what people see out here versus what's here. And I always wanted people to see me for, oh, that's not me. That you're just looking at me as a physical thing. I want you to know me. And what I didn't realize is that you grow as a person because you start reflecting and you start going in to think about character, you think about emotion, you think about shaping a character. And so I had a lot of great experiences. I grew to love the industry. And when I graduated from Utah State, I moved to Salt Lake City, closer. And I was working as a talent, plus I was a manager at Nordstrom. And that was one of my favorite things. And my goal was to create, I was going to learn enough about fashion that I would go to Europe, start my own store, create my own store and live there because I loved being in Europe. It was beautiful over there. And things changed. I was approached by quite a few different people about, hey, you need to help me out. I don't know what to do. I'm a model on this set and I need some guidance. How do you get in front of the camera and how do you do that? And so I would start sharing. And that's kind of how it started. And then somebody approached me about training their talent. And my first thought was, I don't even have a program. I don't know what that entails. I don't know if I could do that. And it kind of grew into a passion of mine. And I started out just teaching runway. And my dance background was really influential with runway because I would add dance movement to it. I would make it interesting. And I had another project. It was called Fashion in Motion, where I would have models do some dance pieces within the show. And I created all these fashion shows. I would, one a month, one every other month, I would do a lot of fashion work. So that kind of sparked another transition. And so this was in 92, okay, that I started training. And I was doing it part-time at night, about 2 to 3 hours a night, 2 or 3 times a week. And one of my aha moments was a young girl gave me a card. And she said, "Thank you for changing my life." And that shifted me that day. It was a very inspirational, because it said something about to make one life breathe easier is because you've existed. It was an amazing message.
I hope you've kept that card.
Oh, I have. I still have it.
It sounds like that's what really created Style Incorporated. Then that's what that began.
Yes. In 92 is when I started writing the program. And so I was still working as a manager full time. And I did that until 94. And then I decided, I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to focus full time on developing and training talent.
And that's Style Incorporated.
And that's where Style Incorporated came from. It was incorporated in 95. So it took me about 3 years to really be able to make that transition. Once I did that, I started writing a program based upon other elements, character development, print work, alignments. I started really detailing that out, and I developed a program that was, 6 hours. And then it went to 13 hours. And then it went to the 13 hours plus once a month, 2 hours additional. And so through that process, style became so important to me, because when I had the chance to work with talent and they would come back and say, "Thank you," and that was amazing, and it just opened up so many other options for me. I realized that was my purpose. I really did. That was something that I was pulled towards. I stepped into it and I started working through that. And style has been around for 29 years. And the program has evolved so much within that time period. And it just fills me so much by doing that. And so let's talk about, training is necessary for a talent to go in front of a camera and be able to emote those emotions or that body alignment. If they don't know that and they can't deliver that on cue, then the client has to have a million retakes. The point of having a professional is that they can get on set and just deliver it. Boom, boom, boom. Every frame is good, or at least every other one is amazing. And I started really diving into the science of it. I'm like, well, let's just be a little bit more technical. And so the things that I brought in really came from my experiences, because later on I'll talk about, I became a booking agent. So I saw it from a booking perspective, I saw it from a talent perspective, a trainer's perspective. And as I was traveling to New York and LA and Miami and Europe, a whole different world opened up. And what came into my space was, we need to up our game here in Utah. We really need to bring awareness. We need to be competitive. Why can't Utah be just as competitive as another state like New York or LA? Well, they have millions of people that want to do this, and that's the difference versus a smaller demographic. But why can't we build and give that 100%? Why can't we work towards that? You know, and so that's what fueled me, is that I remember being that shy young teenager. I was clumsy. I didn't think I was cute. I was really all about dance and other things where I didn't have to speak or show anything. Well, you do have to show emotion, but I think that that just changed my life. And that really helped me connect to who I really was. And you think the opposite because you think, okay, it's what people see on the outside. But it really mirrors a lot of what's happening on the inside. And so the program is so dear to me and it's so important. If I could do anything for the rest of my life, it would be just to train talent.
I think of Style Incorporated as one of your children and Urban Talent as the other.
Yes.
Was there a natural evolution? Okay, I've got Style Incorporated, I'm doing the training. I need to do this with Urban Talent.
Well, it happened 2 years later. And it was kind of like that vertical integration thing that happened, is that people would come to me and say, Tina, I wish you had your own agency. Because I love working with you. I like the ideas. You push me. You tell me straightforward what I need to do. Have you thought about doing an agency? And it wasn't just one or two people that would say that. I had quite a few people come to me and say, have you thought about having your own agency? And so that kind of, I was mulling that around and I'm thinking, oh, I really want to do it, but I'm already working a lot of hours. That just seems insane. 2 years later, it happened. And it was a commitment, definitely. And it was something different. I think the most challenging thing was just working with the clients and seeing that they could believe in the talent. But the one thing that separated me as Urban from anybody else is that my talent were trained. My talent were good. Not just so-so, but they were really educated and they knew what to do. And it was a profession. It wasn't just a hobby, or it wasn't just something where people had to learn right on the spot. They were hired as a professional talent. And so that sparked me to go, oh, this is just natural. I'm not going to let go of Style because Style is my baby. That is like my passion for life. I love working with talent one-on-one or in a group. Booking was a whole different aspect. And as a booking company, booking agents only make money when their talent are booking. They take a commission. They take 15% from a job. So they don't get paid unless the talent book. So if you have seasoned, developed talent, you're going to have a higher likelihood of booking than you are if the talent know nothing. Because then it's hit and miss on whether or not you can secure bookings with clients. So it was a natural thing that just kind of moved through that phase. Urban has now been around for 27 years. An amazing talent pool, fabulous staff. We are in 3 markets. We are in Las Vegas, Boise, Salt Lake City. It's grown. And I love knowing that I have been such an influence and such a bridge for people getting into this industry to have work, to have experiences.
You got Style Incorporated, you got Urban Talent. 2 different entities, but which complement each other, correct?
Yes, they do. It's that vertical positioning, because Urban wouldn't be as successful if they didn't have the developed talent. Because part of what clients want when they come into an agency is they want to see tools. Meaning tools are like portfolios, comp cards, headshots, resumes. They want to see that on a professional level. And me coming from other bigger markets, that was just natural. But what I learned in Utah is that it was, people kind of put 25% in rather than 100%. And so I wanted to change that positioning. And I thought that's one way Urban can shift the direction of clients understanding the value and knowing why they're paying a talent what they do is because they have earned it and they deserve that piece, and they're the right pick, you know. And this is an industry where you've got to develop yourself, not just by your skills, by knowing what the alignments are, knowing how to deliver character, having the book, having the comp card, but it's also that alignment of self-confidence in a way that connects. Because when a client looks at an image or a commercial or a film, your job as a talent is to inspire. It's to pull that out of someone and go, ooh, I want that too. I want to go in there. And that's why, you know, stores and magazines, designers utilize those concepts to increase sales, you know, because they know that moves people in that direction. We're all pulled in exposure, you know, and I think that's what the talent have to learn how to do, and that takes time. That is not one of those natural things.
I'm guessing one of the things you've got to deal with is for new talent. When they come in, they may have created or seen on TV or movies kind of this mythological view of the industry. Because there are some myths out there, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of them is, well, if you believe in me and you like me, then just give me the opportunity and cover all the expenses. Well, I don't know what industry would do that, especially when there's so much on the line. Because if you think about it, a model's got to learn, so training. Who's going to teach that person for free? Then they've got to get photographs and have the rights to those photographs. What photographer, if they're any good, would just give that away? You know, you've got to place that value on, okay, I've got to invest in myself and I've got to work on that, because it's not just money either that it's going to take. It's also going to take you being motivated enough to get in there and do the work, the repetition, the discipline around practice. And people want the result without the committed action piece. They want the easy part. They want the gift of it. They think it's just a gift. It's not. It's something that you have to develop over time. And clients like working with seasoned people because it saves them money and time. And so if you develop yourself and realize this is your own business, you get 85% of the check. It's your business.
I'm guessing that what you teach your talent is not only good for their professional life, but I would think some of that carries over into their overall life.
Yeah, so that's the emotional piece of this, because I've gone through some transitions, you know, throughout my life. And one of them was I was in a serious accident in 2008. I broke my back, 6 ribs, my pelvis. And I had to stop teaching for a while. During that time, I kind of almost, that magic kind of left me a little bit. I was sad about it because I really loved working with people in that way, that one-on-one. And someone approached me, a very good business partner approached me and said, you know what, you need to take this class. And I said, what is it? And he's like, it's about life mastery. And I get in there, it's with impact trainings, and I do it for 2 years. And it's all about the alignment of self. It's about being consciously aware and present and owning you. And that contract that you make with yourself, everything that you put into words, everything that you put into action is your choice. And that shifted me so much. And when I think about it, every little one of these dots connected. I wouldn't be here today if they didn't. Because when I was growing up, I never thought I would be doing this right now. You know, going and through those experiences, I never thought I'd be doing this. And when COVID hit, I rewrote a program that works on diving in here the individual, and talking about purpose of an individual. A lot of people are very skeptical about modeling and acting because they think it's superficial. But it's quite the opposite coming from me, because I'm going to work on the self. I'm going to work on, let's go a little bit deeper and let's talk about what is your purpose. And you know what I have found is a model or an actor that knows that, that's confident in that, and those things that I share about alignment, that connection with the client is that much stronger.
Is that what you look for in talent, among other things?
Well, we look for physical appearance, obviously, that has to be there. There's a lot of people that get turned away just because they don't fit that demographic or they don't fit that look. And that it is what it is. It's industry standard, right? We look for drive, and we don't notice that a lot until they start going. There's a lot of flaky people in the industry too. And then their attitude, their confidence level. That's the difference between somebody that's going to go in and get a job and consistently work than somebody that's just beautiful that randomly books a job that really has no self-esteem. And so that's what motivated me to really focus in on the psychological part of this. And that comes down to the ego, what's in our subconscious, how we take things on, and how we make choices. Every choice that we make is ours, right? We have to be accountable for our choices. Nobody else forces you to do something, unless they absolutely tie you down, which that doesn't happen in our industry here in Utah especially.
You forced me to do this interview.
I did, okay. No, but you know, when people say, well, I had to do that, we didn't really. And that's one thing I learned in just mastering our choices in life, is that we have to be accountable for the things we choose and the things that we do.
Is there any sort of secret sauce for somebody who books a lot of jobs? I mean, can you spot it? Can it be nurtured?
It can be nurtured, but it's kind of like an awakening that happens. Part of in our program, I do this piece where we awaken that giant from within. The Tony Robbins, which was one of my favorite speakers and has been one of my favorite speakers since I was a kid. But I remember reading that book, and it's about awakening this piece of you that is a giant, that's quiet. And and until that person knows that, they hide behind these masks, and people can't read them. And so when they go into audition, the people that work a lot are the people that know how to connect, and they're very authentic, and they can connect people with people, and that person's not feeling a weird energy hitting them. And a lot of us don't think about that. But so many people that enter this industry are so worried about judgment. They're so worried about, what will this person think? Or, oh, I've got to belong. I've got to have the likes. That they don't focus on the inner self. And that is our secret, is we really develop that. And we really pull that out and help them recognize that piece. Because that's really what it is. I had Charisse Pfeiffer in here earlier, Nikolai Thomas. I mean, Derek Older. There's a lot of these people that know that. They didn't always know that. That's kind of an awakening that happened when they started really focusing in on who they were. Because when you get to act, you're embodying another emotion. You're embodying another human in a sense that you physically in your mind created. And so when you embody that, you're also transitioning from self to that character. And when you know yourself that well, you know how to maneuver into that. And that's one thing I love about our creative process, is that is something that it's like incredible to experience. And so when people figure that out, as they grow through this, we work on a lot of self-growth. It's not just about standing in front of a camera and doing alignments or character. It's about, we need to grow as a human. It's about all those values that are already in there. We need to pull out and make them as big as the other, and part of that is understanding what that is. And you don't really get that until it's right here. And one of those things that I remember is just, ooh, I feel like I used to go through life like this. And then all of a sudden this happened to me. Going through life mastery, you can't go back. Once you started seeing it, and you're cognitive of being in that moment, wow, your scope just opens up, and if you can be your authentic self and then embody a character or listen and actively listen to a client and then embody that, that's the key, is that you've got to take on that, because you are the individual, you're the entity, you're the art piece that has to create that. It's not the photographer's job to move your body around and adjust it. Now, one thing I noticed in Utah that they do here, sometimes it's funny, that I've never seen before outside, is they adjust people, move them around. A model needs to be able to do that. An actor needs to be able to take that on. That's why they hire them as a professional. And I think that's one thing that makes us unique, is that we focus on it every month. We focus on it every week because we want our talent to be the best. Do we have things to learn? Yes. I'm always learning, I'm always changing it. But that's, long story short, that's how somebody is born into creation mode, is they learn how to embody who they are.
I think you just hit upon something key, which is a common theme. Seems like you've been very observant and receptive to ideas. Somebody says you should do style incorporated, urban talent, broaden yourself emotionally. That's tricky because some people get suggestions and don't listen to them.
That's true. I think that comes from a space of being present with self, and I believe that there are no accidents, and I was reminded of that when I went to impact training. There are no accidents. I think everything in the universe, every person in our life, we are intertwined and interconnected. And each one of those dots further us along in our experience as a human, as growth happens. And I think my eyes were really opened up through my experiences in life. I've gone through some hard things, and I've had to get up. I've had to keep moving forward and get up. And a lot of times it's lonely down there. And nobody is going to pick me up but me, right? You might have coaches along the road and do that, but I learned from a young age how to do that. And so I'm very sensitive to people around me. I listen, and I think about what comes into my space. I process it. And I think, oh, it's here for a reason.
You've been doing this almost 3 decades. Mm-hmm. Do you still listen to all the feedback you get, good and bad? Even though that can be tough.
You know what? It is hard. I'm learning that not all feedback I don't have to worry about. I don't mind when people go off the radar and just go off on what they think they know, because I know here what the truth is. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to accept new ideas, and especially if they're out there. One thing I think that has been a source of contention, or the reason why people might say negative things about urban, is mainly because of the way I structure style. And style is about accountability. It's about, you have to be willing to do the work. You also have to be mindful of every decision you make, and what in life tells us that we don't have to be accountable? Are we supposed to dismiss everything that we say we're going to do just because our mind shifts? And so because I'm an innovator, because I'm somebody that always likes to be in the running, I like to set the pace. I like to get in there and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work. We failed here. Let's get up and do it again somewhere different. Those people that come along with me and my team, we need to know that they're coming. And a lot of times, in this industry, people can be flaky because in a sense they think, oh, but I want that, but I'm not willing to work for it. We don't really work hard for something unless we do have some skin in the game. And so, Brene Brown talks about the man in the arena. And she also says, you can't worry about all this other feedback outside, because if they're not in the arena with you doing that work and they don't know that story and they're not the ones getting beat up and marred and they don't have that connection, then they're just observers, naysayers, and people that really don't have that much of an impact. I'm here living it every day. I know what we want to do, and I want nothing more than for the people that come into my space to have an incredible experience. If nothing else, for them to be a kind human, not only to other people but themselves, because that's what we need more of. And so I guess it's from that perspective too that I look at being in that realm of me interacting and connecting with people. That's what's really important, is connection. Not only to others, but to self, because if we're always wanting that belonging, but we don't do the work here, we can never be connected. We have to have self-acceptance first, and we have to have self-love first. I used to think that was so woo-hoo, self-love, da-da-da-da-da. It's important as a human being.
I'm starting to think that you're passionate about this.
I am. Can you tell? You can't tell, can you?
A little bit. Almost 30 years in, how do you and your business continue to evolve and change?
Every Monday, every day of the week, especially Mondays are longer than others, but we meet as a team. Every one of our members of our team are committed. They are passionate. They want to change and evolve and grow. So we're always doing the think tank. We always throw out ideas and say, okay, how can we be better as an agency? How can we offer more? How can we develop more? How can we give people more opportunities? Because it's kind of like this. They're our family. Everybody that comes in here that we hug every day, they're part of a huge family that we have. We care about our talent. We love our talent. So it's kind of like family members. You want them to succeed, right? So you're always thinking in terms of that's on me. How can I get more into their space to help them learn more, to book more? So we're always working on things. That's why this last several years we've done some amazing expanding ideas on working with photographers and getting people to test, because testing is about developing your book. It's about, for models it is. Whereas for actors, they want to get on student films and grow that way, because when you're brand new, you don't have that much experience yet. When models are brand new, they don't have that much experience. So testing is an important thing. So the think tank this year is, let's add to people's books. Let's add to people's reels. Let's get them in front of camera. Let's get them that experience. So if the experience isn't coming in for them, we can create that. And part of our mantra is we are creators. We inspire with creation and are using our imagination. And we go at that angle and we pay attention to those things that come into our space. We listen to what the actors, the models are asking for. We're not perfect by any means, and we make mistakes. But what I like to know is that everyone has the same vision, and that is we work together as a team. We trust each other. When the gaps show up, how do we bridge that? What do we need to do as a group? It's not just one person in this company doing something. It takes all of us.
Speaking of your team, you have such a good staff.
I do. I'm blessed with that.
Are you paying them enough?
No. No, I think this industry, you have to do it because you love it. You're not going to be a millionaire working in this industry unless you become a famous individual. You do it because you love it. because with everything that comes into play with the criticism, with listen, you're a therapist too. You get to hear people work through their issues with them. You're all sorts of hats in this industry. I think that it takes a special person to work in it. The people and my staff members are special, and we always believe in growth and all those things. But I also think that you look at the people you hire, and if they're happy within themselves and they're happy in their environment, they're going to thrive. So that means everybody's going to grow. Everybody's going to prosper. When I think about expanding, or when I think about setting rates, it's also about how much is my family going to make? How much is the people around me going to prosper from it? It's not just about one person. It's a collective. And so you share the wealth. Gratitude always brings in more prosperity. And part of what we do is we're giving back. And urban is always about expanding and opening up more opportunities for people. With expansion, that happens naturally.
Anything I didn't ask which you wanted to add or restate?
I think you've asked a lot of questions. One thing I probably should touch on a little bit is the work ethic that a talent needs to have in order to, they always say, what's the secret to doing this? And it's kind of what I've already talked about, the inner self, but it's also doing the work. A model needs to test. They need to build their books. I remember when I was working and we had to test, I don't know, at least 6 times a year. That's quite a bit. When you're building your book as a talent, you don't just shoot once a year or once in a lifetime. You've got to be adding those images, because the more you get in front of a camera, the more you learn, the better you become. The more you get to deliver lines, the more you get to be in front of a camera and learn how to work with a director, work with somebody that's shifting you. The more experience you have, the better you become. So part of that is learning what that is and then being committed. If you're not committed, you're not going to get anywhere, because it really comes down to, there's several things. It's not just about the commitment, but because people say to me all the time, well, I am practicing. Okay, let's define practice. How many reps are you doing in, aligning to camera or face? How much are you investing in character development? We can make up any excuse we want. That I call victim role. A creator always steps into a new space every day and says, okay, what can I do today that I didn't do yesterday? How can I learn more than I learned yesterday? And that's what moves people. So I think part of an instructor's role is also opening up their eyes to, okay, you want it, then show me. That's the reason why we sign contracts with people, is because not everybody will do the work. And guess what? We don't have time to mess with that. We are booking. And like I said, there's not a ton of money in it, right, until you start becoming successful at it.
Is this Tina's tough love?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's one thing about me you always know, is I'm going to tell you I'm going to say it straight out. I don't sugarcoat it. I just say it like it is. Because when we are true to that fact, when we are true to what we do, it's just the truth. You got to share that. You got to be honest with people. You've got to be direct, because if you don't, then what? Because people make up their own narrative, right? People can choose any way they want. They can have any direction that they think it's supposed to go. But if they're going to come to me as an expert and I'm going to say, this is where I see it, well, take it on. There's always going to be a reason why we can't do something in life. But it's our choice. Nobody forces you to choose in or step into something. And sometimes it's very scary in this industry, because you don't want everybody to think, oh, you failed or you can't do something. You have to be willing to walk through the fear. And courage doesn't come without fear. You know, and part of getting back up again, every time you fall down, is that little push to get back up and say, I'm going to go for it today. And it's also hearing things that you don't like sometimes. It's just feedback. It's just information for you to process and say, does this work for me? And if it works for me, how am I going to create that?
It's good to see you finally coming out of your shell.
Thank you. You're so nice.